Welcome to the most anticipated tier list of 2023 for update 10.3. His Royal Fatness, Meadsy, and Happy World of Tanks Blitz have all made their own respective tier lists, and in today's video, we will make one to topple them all. Because this is not just going to be a tier list, but it is going to be one that tries to factor as little opinionation as possible. If you watch any other YouTubers' tier list when it comes to Blitz, mainly it's more them ranking their favorite tanks to play from least fun to most fun. This tier list is going to be strictly based off of the tank's capabilities. There's a lot of people in the past that are always like, why do you have so many tanks and super strong? And strong, why aren't there a lot of vehicles and good and workable? And the very simple reason is because we are comparing each of these tanks individually. We are not ranking them amongst each other. We are ranking the vehicles on how they perform individually in the game if you are a decent player. So that is how the ranking works. I could put every single vehicle in super strong if they do very well in the hands of a decent player. So that's the basic generalization out of the way. Now, while there still will be opinions, because obviously if I'm really bad in a tank and I don't think it's a good vehicle, then I might try to rank it a little lower. But for the most part, since I average very similar in all of the tier 10s I play, I have a good understanding of how they play. And even for the vehicles I don't like as much, I still know that some of them have some incredible capabilities. One final remark before we get into today's video. This tier list is not based off of the average player. This tier list is based off of players that will understand how to drive the tanks. For example, the Leopard 1 for the average player would be unworkable because it's a very poor performer in terms of anything for an average player. It's got very little armor, and even though it's got mobility and all this DPM, people that don't understand how to drive the tank are going to do poor in it, and its average statistics show as it's one of the worst performing tier 10 mediums. However, in the hands of a player that understands how to use the vehicle, it's easily making its way into super strong. So this is a great example of how we'll be ranking the list. It's not off of average players, it's off of people that understand how to drive the tanks well. That in mind, let's get straight into the tier list, starting off with the FV217 Badger. For any of you that watch the channel and my reviews on the Badger, you know where this vehicle is going, and that is right into the broken category. This vehicle is still absolutely insane. While it did get some slight nerfs in 10.3, first of all, the premium ammo is now heat instead of APCR. And while certain people do like heat, when it comes to the vehicle like the Badger, that's pretty inaccurate, especially when you're trying to sling shells at your opponents. It can get quite frustrating when you're shooting at tracks and they just don't cut through like they used to. But at the end of the day, it is still a lot of pen, and you're going to cut through your opponents. That's not too much of a problem. The other nerf to the vehicle was basically non-existent. It went from 0.326 dispersion to 0.335, which, yeah, you're probably not even going to notice that in battle. The tank's never even aimed in to begin with due to the fact that the vehicle has such poor on-movement dispersion. One buff that was done to the tank is that it now has HESH, 111 millimeters of HESH with 550 damage. That's pretty nasty. It means if you ever get the opportunity to shoot at Leopard 1 or any type of light tanks, you're going to absolutely melt them. The Badger still features 3,856 damage per minute, 10 degrees of gun depression, and basically impervious armor to the majority of heavies, mediums, and light tanks hauled down. Only super high pen tank destroyers running Kali are really going to have a chance of cutting through the Badger while using its gun depression. Because of that, the Badger is still absolutely insane. I mean, heck, the vehicle turns at 45 degrees a second. It's just ridiculous. While I do think the vehicle is a little bit worse than it was previously, it is still such an influential tank, and it is currently still the highest performing tank destroyer in tier 10, so no doubt in my mind that this vehicle still makes it into the broken category. I'd say it's leaning towards super strong, like it's not fully in the category, but it still stays in broken. Next up, we have the FV4005, and my choice of where this vehicle sits might surprise some of you, but it's going once again into the broken category. For any of you that have gotten clipped by a 4005, you know instantly why it's making it into this slot. The clip on the vehicle is broken. It deals 1,640 damage in a matter of 5 seconds. That is completely game-breaking. You make a slight mispoke, and a 4005 with shell reload boost is dumping you every 1.5 seconds for 410 alpha. It'll permanently track you, it'll pen you every shot because it's a tank destroyer and it's got ridiculous pen. Plus, the vehicle's got fantastic mobility, especially if you pair it with super speed boost. It's just an absolutely insane tank. Don't get me wrong, in terms of winning, the vehicle would probably go into like good or workable. But in terms of the gun and its overall capabilities on the battlefield, it easily makes it into game breaking. So I'm sticking with that, and it's going into that category. Moving on, we have the FV215B183. Where do we want to put this tank? Well, what I'm thinking is that we go over here and we press add a row below. Then we click on this row and we make it black, and then we title it TRASH. Done. I think that's absolutely perfect. And then we can drag the vehicle right into the trash category. There we go. Look at that, ladies and gents. We have found the perfect spot for the FE215B183. A vehicle that is legit trash. It's a pretty simple explanation on why the FE215B183 sits in the trash category. It features the worst camouflage values in Tier 10. The vehicle is absolutely massive, and it features one of the most inaccurate guns paired with terrible armor. Sure, there are certain times that you can get crazy games. There have been people that have done 10k, 11k carries in the 183, but for 99% of the battles you play in this tank, it is going to be dookie. It is not only the worst performing tank in Tier 10, but it is clearly going to be sitting in that trash category for the rest of the video. There are certain people that will disagree with that for some reason, but it's not budging. It's staying down there. Next up, we have the FV215B. This vehicle easily makes it into super strong. After the changes in 10.3, the tank has become incredible. It reaches a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour now, with a very solid power to weight. Not only did it get a 6 kilometer per hour speed buff, but the vehicle also still keeps super speed boost, allowing it to achieve an even higher top speed of 45 while activating it. So the vehicle is incredibly fast for what it is. And pair that with the fact that the gun is incredible, .303 dispersion, it's got 187 millimeters of hesh pen, plus it's actually a fairly well armored turret. I won't say the hull is good because it's not. It's absolutely terrible on the hull armor, but the turret armor is absolutely amazing. So if you drive the tank properly, you will do fantastic in the FE215B. It is easily an S tier super strong vehicle, so that's why it's staying in that category. The Chieftain Mark 6 is going to be going into this one's always tricky. For me, it's kind of in between super strong and strong, because it's always been, yeah, we're gonna go to strong. Don't get me wrong, it's a great tank, and I do think that it has some areas where it could sit into super strong, but I feel like, at least right now, there are just better vehicles that can do slightly better. Like, I could drive a Concept 1B, kind of do better than a Chieftain. I mean, sure, the vehicle got reactive in 10.3, and it did get AP standard, which is pretty nice, but that was it. Personally, I would like to see the turret armor buffed on the Chieftain. That's what I've been wanting to see for a while. If it got that slight turret armor buff, it would easily make it into the super strong area. But right now, it's a solid tank, incredibly solid, and I still think it's amazing, so it's just going to sit in the strong category. We have the Super Conqueror next, and this vehicle, tricky one. The Super Conch got a little bit more DPM in the latest update, about 100 more, and then it lost a bit of its hesh pen and actually its premium penetration, which is a little weird. I'm not sure why Wargaming nerfed the premium pen, because it wasn't ridiculously good to begin with, but everything else is basically the same on the Super Conch. It has great armor, decent mobility. Overall, I'm actually going to slide it into the super strong category. It's just a great vehicle. It's really good for town fighting on flat ground because it has great side armor, about 120 mils, which is fantastic for side scraping. The gun is great, even though it doesn't have as much pen as it used to. It gained damage per minute, which allows it to actually work better, especially on hull down ridgelines. And when you pair that with the fact that it's got okay mobility and everything else going for it, it's just a great tank. It really is a super strong vehicle. It's one of those vehicles that I don't play as much as I should, but when I do, I really enjoy it. Oh boy. Now we arrive to a very tricky one, being the Vickers Light. This tank got Definitely nerfed in the latest update. Not as bad as people think, but it still did get nerfed. The vehicle sits at 300 damage per shot now instead of 350. That nerfed the Hesh, I think, down to 380 damage per shot, which used to be 440. But the DPM did get about 100 more, which is a little bit of a buff there. But nothing else really happened. The turret armor also got worse, especially on the mantlet. So because of that, it's not going to go into super strong, or even broken. I'm going to put it in the good. I'm tempted to put it into workable because it's kind of in that area, but I still feel like it's actually a decent tank. It's a fairly self-explanatory light. It's the basic light playstyle. It's got okay armor. You'll still get bounces on the turret occasionally. And while the gun isn't anything insane in terms of the alpha, it still has great accuracy at 0.29. It's got really good DPM at 3,300 still. So it's still actually a very solid tank. We're going to keep it in good. All right, next up we have the FV4202. This vehicle is easily making it into the super strong category. For some reason, there's a lot of people bummed out about the changes to the gun because it got a slight DPM nerf by about 150. I mean, sure, it did lose DPM, but it's not like it's really going to affect the playstyle. The base damage per minute with AP is now 2,900. It's the lowest for basically a single shot tier 10 medium, but this tank has Hesh, and that's what you're going to be shooting with it. Using Hesh, even with calibrated shells activated, you have 3,644 damage per minute in the FV4202, which is more than enough to melt any other medium. Even if you're going up against a vehicle like a Leopard 1 or an Object 140, which with rammer can have upwards of 3,900 DPM, you still don't have the alpha of 440 to contest a vehicle like the 4202. This vehicle also got a buff on its accuracy slightly and aiming time with the Hesh gun, and the best part of them all, it also now has a cheap Hesh variant with 72 millimeters of pen, so you'll be shooting this at light tanks and the rear of most likely heavies, and this deals 480 damage per shot, giving you a reason to actually load some standard HE into your vehicle and boosting that already good DPM of 3,600 with your Hesh up to now 3,975. So the vehicle is incredible. When you pair that with a top speed of 60 kilometers per hour, one of the best power to weight ratios in tier 10, 10 degrees of gun depression, an upper plate that is literally 330 mils thick, and a turret that is incredibly troll against AP ammunition, I don't really think I need to say much more. This 4202 is just an amazing tank. It is incredibly strong, and if you understand how to drive it, you will do well in the vehicle. Alright, now we arrive to the WZ121, and this vehicle, it's a tricky one. It's either going into strong or super strong. I'm going to put it into super strong. The vehicle got tungsten, and it's already a great tank. It has 3,440 DPM if you're running gun rammer, which is incredible. Even with calibrated shells, you're upwards of 3,200. Pair that with the fact the vehicle has the fastest aiming time in tier 10 of 2.2 seconds, and pair that with the fact the vehicle has incredible alpha at 420. Now the vehicle has tungsten, meaning that you can roll on average 490 when you activate it. That is ridiculous. And if you're a little bit of a mad lad like me, running tungsten and adrenaline, you can have upwards of 4,500 DPM. So yeah, the WZ121, absolutely nasty vehicle. This tank also actually has very good hull armor. A lot of people don't know this, but if we pull over to Armor Inspector, for some reason people don't know that the 121 is actually one of the most armored tier 10 mediums in the game. If we pull out a Leopard 1 against the 121 and aim it on the upper plate, it's about 230 mils thick on flat. That means if you're angling it and using a slight bit of gun depression on that upper plate, you'll actually get bounces upwards of 270 mils thick. Just using 6 degrees of gun depression, your upper plate's about 280. Even loading heat shells, it's actually super solid at about 340 mils thick. Compare that to something like the 121B's upper plate, and we can see just how much weaker it is. So the 121 actually features one of the strongest medium armor profiles. Even the hull is just incredibly good, making it actually a fantastic brawling vehicle, and that's easily why, again, it's making it into the super strong category. Really, the only downside of the tank is that it doesn't have great on-movement dispersion because of the alpha, and the fact that it has a pretty weak ammo rack. But as long as you know how to counter both of those problems, you'll very easily do well in it. WZ1321. This vehicle, when it was first released into the game, was absolutely dookie. The gun was very strong, but the problem is it had no penetration, especially with its pen loss over distance. The accuracy was okay, and I mean, it wasn't a terrible tank. I would have put it into workable. But apart from that, it really just was one of the worst performing tanks. However, in 10.3, Wargaming changed a lot about it. First of all, they nerfed the DPM, which sounds like a nerf, but in reality it actually helped it because they buffed the alpha. The mechanic on the WZ-132-1 called Adaptive Concealment has a couple benefits, and lowering the DPM but buffing the alpha helped one of the benefits majorly, because the mechanic allows you to get unspotted in 7 seconds rather than 10, and it also allows you to know who spotted you and when you're unspotted. This mechanic's great. The problem was, when the vehicle had 330 alpha with high DPM like 3,500, you would shoot so fast that you wouldn't even be able to use the unspotting mechanic. But now that the vehicle has 360 alpha and around a 8-second reload if you're running Cali like me, it actually means that you will get unspotted by the time you poke, allowing you to just poke safely. It's actually just a massive benefit to the vehicle right now. So I think the tank feels great. It also got a big heat pen buff. It's now the highest penetration heat light apart from the Sheridan, which is really, really good. So this vehicle, it's going to go into strong. I think it is a very strong vehicle after the changes done to it. I really enjoy it, and hands down, the mechanic on the vehicle, Adaptive Concealment, is the best mechanic in the game. I don't think anybody can change my mind on that. Knowing when you're spotted, who spotted you, and how long you're spotted for is basically all the information a good player needs to completely carry games. So easily, the tank makes it into strong. It's close to super strong, but it still needs more gun depression. If the vehicle got 7 degrees, like the Type 62 down in Tier 7, easily super strong. But right now, it's sticking in strong. Next up, we have the WZ-111-5A. And this vehicle, well, it's a bit disappointing what happened to it. I mean, it still has the strengths going for it. If we make our way back over to Armor Inspector, we can take a look at the armor profile of the vehicle, and it's still strong. I mean, against anything hull down, the turret is still really good, as we can see. It's upwards of 500, but it does have some cheeks now, 309. While the mantlet looks weak, you have to realize that that is spaced armor, so any heat shells aren't going to be able to cut through that. So its armor's still like decent hull down. It's not the worst thing ever. You will get bounces in the turret. The vehicle still has high DPM at around 3,000, but its problem is that it has very little heat pen, and the accuracy actually got nerfed alongside the alpha. It's got 440 alpha. I mean, the alpha nerf isn't the worst thing ever because you shoot faster, and 440 is actually a really nice alpha to bonk your opponents with. It also got more mobility, which isn't too bad either. I'm going to put the 5A into good. It's definitely not a bad tank by any means. It can get the job done. It's got high DPM, which is what you'd want for a heavy, and great mobility. So I still think it's a decent vehicle, but I just can't say it's strong anymore after what happened. Previously, I probably would have put the 5A into strong or even super strong in the previous patches. All Wargaming had to do, as I keep saying, is buff the penetration. And now they've kind of taken away a lot of the parts that I really liked about the tank, which is honestly super disappointing. We arrive at the WZ-121B. This vehicle, oh, I love it so much. First of all, it's just a super solid Chinese Soviet-style medium, because instead of having the small petite alpha of like the 62A, well, I guess the 62A is now 340 because it got buffed, but previously the 62A was 310. The Object 140 is 310. 907 is 310. T100 LT is 310. The alpha of Soviet mediums is a little bit lackluster in my opinion, so I've never loved them personally, but the 121B at 350 is really nice because it's a 105mm, but it still has the same armor and playstyle as a Soviet medium. So it's just kind of the best of both worlds. Pair that with the fact that in the latest update of the game, Wargaming gave this vehicle adaptive concealment, and you already heard me say how good that mechanic is. I'm actually going to put the 121B into super strong. The mechanic on the vehicle is just fantastic. Any good player that understands how to use the mechanic is going to do great. And when you pair that with the fact that the vehicle has these weird consumables, super speed boost and reactive armor, and the fact that the tank is quite mobile, it's got all these great things going for it. It's just an all-around super strong tank, easily making it into that category. Once again, we have another super strong vehicle. In fact, I'm going to be honest, the next couple tanks we have on the list are probably going to make it into super strong. The WZ-113 is a fantastic tank. In 10.3, it got some changes a lot of people don't like, but I think they were actually really, really solid. Sure, it lost a little bit of DPM. It went from 3,440 with rammer to about 3,200. If you're running Cali, you still have over 3k DPM, which means you're still very high in terms of the food chain when it comes to damage per minute, especially in the class of heavies. You're basically top 5, maybe even top 3. So, in terms of DPM, it's still really solid. When it comes to the armor, a turret armor buff was actually received on the vehicle in 10.3. So that's really nice. It got more armor, especially on the part that it needed armor, and it got a big buff on the pen. It went from 369 to 380. That is insane. Absolutely insane. It is now the highest heat pen tier 10 heavy in the game. It turns armor into literal Swiss cheese, and it feels incredible driving the vehicle with the armor. It also got a slight traverse buff, but for the most part, yeah, it got a turret buff, a slight DPM nerf, and a massive heat pen buff. It also got a teeny bit of a dispersion nerf, but it doesn't really matter because it's still accurate enough to get the job done. Overall, it's still a super strong tank. It's got DPM, it's got mobility, it's got everything you'd want for a heavy, checks all the boxes, and that's why it gets into the super strong category. WZ-113 GFT, also easily super strong. I can sum up why this tank is super strong in about 2 seconds. We make our way over to Chinese tank destroyers, and this is what a Leopard 1 sees against the WZ-113 GFT, loading premium heat with calibrated shells activated. Yeah, 350 millimeters of upper plate armor on flat ground. Just hide that lower plate. Pull out our calculator real quick. Let's pretend that this is a ridgeline or just something you can hide your lower plate on, then that's what the vehicle looks like. It's absolutely insane. It's insane. The vehicle is ridiculous now. Even heavy tanks that you have okay pen on, let's say a VK90, load premium, it's ridiculous. Just use your 5 degrees of gun depression. The whole vehicle's red. The side armor, you can over angle like crazy, and it is still impervious, and that's because the edges are 240 thick. The vehicle is redonkulous. When you pair that with the fact that it's got over 3,000 DPM, incredible levels of penetration, and even decent accuracy at .326, easily this tank is making its way into the super strong category. I don't think there's really anybody that can disagree with that take there. The vehicle is just insane. So yeah, going in the super strong. TVP 5051. This one's tricky. It's very tricky because the tank still has a nasty clip. It deals 1,200 damage in 5.5 seconds, which is still devastating. It still has great mobility. It has 8 degrees of gun depression. It didn't lose DPM at all from the clip changes. And the tank still has troll armor. It's really, really tricky to do this. But, oh man. I'm going to put it in the super strong. I was tempted to put it in the broken. And while I do still think it is very close to being game breaking, I don't think it is deadly enough anymore to be in that category. You don't see a lot of TVPs in the battlefield as I guess people think it's ruined, even though it's not. It's still an incredible tank, so it's a little weird to see why people have stopped playing it, but I think it's kind of funny. I do. But overall, it's still a super strong vehicle. It's got a great clip. It's got the mobility. Everything I said about the tank in the previous updates are basically the same. It just got a dispersion nerf and a DPM nerf. Well, not DPM, but damage dumping nerf is what I should say. But still, really solid tank, easily makes it in the super strong. VZ55. This is kind of the new 5A in my opinion. The VZ features all the mechanics that I wish the 5A had, like high alpha, like decent accuracy after the dispersion changes on the vehicle, and the fact that the vehicle actually has good armor. So, as disappointed as I am with the changes that were done to the 5A, the VZ is going to make it into the strong category. I don't think there's necessarily anything that makes the vehicle super strong. If it had a bit better reverse speed, or maybe the hatch was a little bit smaller, it would make it in the super strong. But right now, it's just an all-round decent heavy. It's got okay gun, decent DPM, good armor. The one thing I will say that is incredible about the VZ is the penetration. It is ridiculous. It's like 352 premium on the APCR. That's insane. You'll penetrate literally everything in front of you. I'd say that's on par with the WZ-113's level of premium pen. So really, really nasty stuff there. It also does feature combat stabilization, a very cool mechanic, which basically means while you're driving slower than 15 kilometers per hour, you have no dispersion on move, which is really nice. So it will make it into the strong category, and it is a very strong tank. So not bad at all. It's been growing on me. I do think it still needs a slight buff, maybe on the traverse and the reverse speed, but apart from that, it's a strong tank, and I don't really have any problems with it. The Progetto, oh yeah, going right in the super strong. It was always going to be like strong to super strong, even before the changes in 10.3, but the vehicle received a big DPM buff, about 250. It's insane now. It has 3,000 base damage per minute. That means if you dump the entire clip and you just shoot with single shot, the vehicle has 3,000 DPM. Keep that in mind, because you still have an additional 1,050 damage sitting in your clip when you start the game. So technically, this vehicle has 4,050 damage per minute at the start of any battle or whenever you have a clip loaded. Yeah, think about that. 4,050 DPM. No medium will beat you. No medium. A Leopard 1 can have 4k DPM. It'll push you. You'll deal 1,050 damage to it before it even gets 600 into you. And then you'll just keep shooting it, and it will lose. Every single tier 10 medium will lose to you if you pen your shots in the Progetto. Because of that, it is easily and super strong. Pair that with the fact that the vehicle has a very troll upper plate that will actually get bounces even from tank destroyers, and the fact that the vehicle's got great mobility, 9 degrees of gun depression, it is just an amazing vehicle. It's just so good. The fact that it gained DPM and lost about a second on each shell is just, it's so good. The Progetto, easily one of the best tier 10 mediums to grind right now, and super underrated in my personal opinion. The Minotauro, this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. It's in between strong and super strong. Armor-wise, the vehicle is really good, but side armor-wise, it's pretty poor. The gun is nasty, but also has some big downsides. I'm going to put the Minnow into... Oh, this one's tricky. This one's really tricky. I'm going to do it into super strong, honestly. I was tempted to do strong, but the Minnow's alpha is so high, and it has so much armor frontally, that it's just such a menace to deal with, and it's actually one of my higher performing tanks in tier 10 after I got the playstyle homed in. It's just stupid. Like, there's a lot of people that say don't dump your reserve shell. And while I do agree that there are certain moments where you shouldn't dump your reserve shell, there's also a lot of moments where I will see, let's say, an E100 in front of me, and it'll have 2,000 health. I'll go bam, bam, bam. Take 1,560 off his vehicle, back in the cover, and I got one teammate next to me. My teammate's holding off that E100. I got free 1,500 damage, and I can just chill and wait for 30 seconds, reload my clip, and then continue on my day. Only 2 dumps, and you're at 3,000 damage. If you know how to drive the Minnow, you will do incredibly well in it. So yeah, easily in the super, super duper strong category. The Caro 45 ton, this vehicle, oh yeah, it's going right into the super strong category. I know there's a lot of people that are like, is it broken? No, it's not broken. It does have a lot of downsides. Its accuracy is similar to the Progetto's. In fact, it's worse. The Progetto sits at 0.335, which is pretty poor. The Caro 45 ton is 0.344. It is the least accurate medium in tier 10, even compared to a WZ121. But to make up for that, it has a 3-shell autoloader. The 4th shell is optimal, or optional is what I mean to say, because it's a reserve shell. You have to wait 20 seconds to shoot it. And unlike the Minnow, where you deal a whopping 490 on dumping the shell, the Caro, you deal 380. So it's 380 for a 20-second reload. It's not worth it unless you really have to dump the shell. But even then, it has 380 damage per shot, which is really nasty. It is a little bit limited by the intra clip, though. It's a 3.54 second dump on each shell, which is a very long dumping time. As I said, the accuracy is very mid, and the mobility did get slightly nerfed in the latest update, making it quite a bit slower on acceleration and actually getting in and out of positions. So it has its fair share of downsides. If it didn't have kind of mediocre mobility and the accuracy was a bit better, it would probably make its way into the broken category. But as of right now, there's not enough going for it that puts it into that category. But I still want to point out, it's in super strong. It's an incredible take. It's my favorite tier 10 in the game right now. Super fun to drive. So yeah, it's definitely in the super strong spot. The 60 TP also into the super strong spot. This vehicle has 630 damage per shot, which is amazing. I mean, the vehicle hits like crazy. When you pair that with the fact that it actually got an aiming time buff in the latest update with no downsides to its dispersion, that's just an absolute like mega buff. And the vehicle also has great mobility. It reaches a top speed of 40 kilometers per hour and reverses at 20 if you're running gear oil, which is ridiculous. The vehicle's got everything going for it. It's got great armor, it's got great hull down capabilities. It's nothing game breaking, but it is easily a super strong vehicle. It is one of the best tanks, especially for any type of player skill set. It's just so good in so many different situations. Yes, it has a weak ammo rack, but I have gotten ammo rack maybe 2-3 times out of my 1,000 games in the 60 TP. That's it. If you play the tank properly and you don't poke like an absolute doofus and show the weak spots where the ammo racks are sitting at, you'll be fine. And that's what I've noticed while driving the tank. Absolutely incredible, especially after the changes done in 10.3. The Kron, oh boy, it's going in the broken. It's going in the broken. It's just such a fantastic tank. The vehicle got a DPM buff in 10.3. It now sits at around 2,400 damage per minute if you are using the clip properly. And this is on single shot with all 3 shells loaded, shooting 1 shell, waiting for it to reload. When you pair the 2400 DPM with the fact that this vehicle has 2 shells in the clip already, that means that you can deal about, what, 3,200, 3,300 DPM? Like, sure, the vehicle has poor DPM if you dump your entire clip and shoot it as a single shot. But at the end of the day, that's just a skill issue. If you're dumping the clip and then complaining that you're getting pushed, that's your fault. Don't dump the clip, you won't get pushed. You have plenty of DPM to get the job done. All you need to do is shoot somebody on your single shot, 3 shell reload until they are 800 health, and then bam, bam, you shoot your 2 final shells and you finish them off. And if you're sitting next to a teammate, you're never going to have to worry about being rushed. I did a live stream the other week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, where I was just talking about, I don't even know what I was talking about. I was just kind of chilling on stream, having fun, and I was playing in the cron. I won about 20 games in a row. I didn't lose. The stream just kept going. I changed it, play to lose. The Kron is an insane vehicle. And in 10.3, not only did it get a DPM buff, but the vehicle also got mobility. It now reaches a top speed of 34. And if you're running super speed boost, you can get up to 39, which is absolutely incredible. It got a traverse speed buff, which is also fantastic. It got a slight accuracy nerf on its aiming time, but who cares? The vehicle is insane. You can't pen it hull down. It's got mobility. It's got everything you'd want going for it. It's even got sandbags, which is just insane. So yeah, the Kron easily broken. The Stritzvon K, for some reason, a lot of people are not liking the vehicle right now. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the vehicle did get a slight nerf, but it also got buffed. I'm actually really happy with what happened to the Stritzvon, and it's still going to be sitting in super strong. A lot of people think the Stritzvon turret armor nerf really hurt the vehicle, and honestly, I don't think it even really got a nerf on the turret. The mantlet's still incredibly troll to pen. I wouldn't ever suggest shooting at it just because of how weird the spots are. There's certain spots that are like 220, but then other spots go upwards of 600. So shooting at the mantlet, it ain't it, Chief. When it comes to the roof, against AP ammo, it's an auto ricochet, so you'll load heat. And sure, on flat ground, it's a pen, but if you're driving the Stritzvon properly, you're going to be hull down. And then the entire roof is still an auto ricochet to any heat shells. The mantlet is spaced armor, you're still not going to pen it. I think the Stritzvon is still a very hard tank to deal with when it comes to ridgelines. The upper plate's super, super solid. It's a very well-armored vehicle. When you pair that with the fact that the vehicle still has 3,300 DPM with rammer, 3,100 with calibrated shells, it's still got great DPM. It's one of the highest for a tier 10 heavy. The vehicle has low alpha at 350, but it has very, very fast rate of fire, meaning that you can easily out-trade your opponents. Pair that with the fact that it's got a decent chunk of HP at, what, 2,005-ish hundred, because it has sandbags armor. It has a great top speed of 48 kilometers per hour. And while there was the nerf to the DPM and a slight nerf to the armor, the other changes were buffs. The vehicle got much more accurate on the move, which was one of the major things I didn't like about the vehicle. And it got combat stabilization, meaning that while you're driving hull down, you virtually have no bloom on your gun. So I actually think the Stritzvon is super underrated after the changes. I know there's a lot of people that might disagree with this and say, oh, the tank's not as good as it used to be. I've been doing really well in it personally. I think it's a super solid tank. So it's going to go in the super strong category. Next up, we have the AMX 30B, and we all know this one's going in the super strong. It is finally good. It has 3,560 DPM with rammer, 3,300 with Cali, and that's all it's ever needed. I've been begging Wargaming for years to do this change, and they finally have done it. The tank did lose a bit of turret armor, but it's still more than the Leopard 1, meaning that you'll get the occasional bounce from mediums while hull down. It has incredible mobility, a fantastic power to weight, and when you add all these things together, plus 10 degrees of gun depression, it just makes this absolutely amazing tier 10 medium. It is finally so good and enjoyable to drive. So yeah, it's going to make it into the super strong category. There's nothing game-breaking or broken about the vehicle that would put it into broken, but yeah, it's still a very, very solid tank, and that's why it's going into super strong. The AMX 50B is also going to be in super strong. We're starting to fill up this list a lot, and to be honest, yeah, we're going to have a lot more going into that list. But the AMX 50B, it's just incredible. The gun got a DPM buff. It now sits at 3,000 damage per minute from the 2,800 it had before. The pen is 357 millimeters of APCR. That is, it's actually mind-boggling how much pen the AMX 50B has. It's actually ridiculous. So you'll belt her through any armor. Mouse upper plate, psych! Right through that. So yeah, the 50B there crazy good. The nerf that was given to it in 10.3 was the hull armor. It basically has no armor on the actual hull. It used to, but we can take a look at what the armor is looking like if we make our way over to France, AMX 50B. Yeah, I mean, look at that. Even against AP. This used to all be like 330 mils thick. The turret got weaker as well. So the vehicle basically has like no armor now, but that's fine because the 50B really never had armor to begin with. So I don't really mind the changes that happened to the vehicle. It's still incredible. It's great gun, everything, mobility, all the parts of the tank that you would want are there. And it got buffed on its reverse speed a couple months ago, now going like 18 in reverse, which it's needed for years. So the 50B is easily a super strong tank. It's chilling in that category very, very well. Moving on, we have the Tier 10 Tech Tree French tank destroyer Le Foch 155, a vehicle that I've actually really been enjoying in the latest update of the game, and that's because it finally got an on-movement dispersion buff that it's needed for a while. Wargaming never really seems to know what they want to do with the vehicle. It was really, really busted when it got its auto-loading gun to begin with. It was a 640 alpha gun with like a 2 or 3 second interclip. It was insane. It would go bam, bam, and it would ruin your entire day. It was a shotgun. Wargaming realized that was a terrible idea. They nerfed it. So then they changed it to a 7.5 second reload for like 600 alpha, or maybe it was 580. The vehicle was still really good. It had 3,500 DPM. It was incredibly dangerous to fight. Then Wargaming changed it again to the current state we're sitting at, where it has 500 damage per shot, and it has a 3.75 second interclip to deal another 500. I actually really like the current Foch. I didn't love it when it was first changed, but I've started to like it a lot more, and especially after the latest update where Wargaming finally buffed the on-movement dispersion, the vehicle actually features pretty dang solid now. It's able to deal, as I said, 1,000 damage in 3.75 seconds. That's a lot of damage when you actually think about it. When you pair that with the fact that this vehicle actually has really solid armor, some of the highest penetration for tier 10s, which is insane, and fantastic mobility, it actually creates a very, very solid vehicle and not a tank I usually like to fight. It's not the best, it's not going in the super strong, but it is a strong vehicle. I know there's a lot of people bummed that it's not the old Foch, but it's still a good vehicle, and I think it's a lot more underrated than it should be. Next up, we have Le Berchation 25 ton. And, yeah, easily going in the super strong. I mean, everything about the Bat Chat is just amazing. Got an alpha buff sitting now at, what? It's 350 instead of the 310 it used to be. So it can deal 1,050 damage. Not only that, but it kept shell reload boost. All of its accuracy, all the capabilities there stayed the same. It got a slight DPM nerf going from like 2,900 to 2,800. I will say the only thing I don't love about the alpha change is that the clip takes longer to reload. So if you're in a situation where you're only going to shoot one shell and then drive away, instead of waiting the 14 seconds, it's now like 16, 17 seconds. It's a little bit disappointing, but overall, still feels incredible. It also got a massive view range buff, now sitting at 337 meters of view range, which is the highest in tier 10 if properly equipped, which is actually insane. You will outspot everything in front of you. So yeah, the Bat Chat's just, it's incredible. Yeah, it's a very tricky tank to drive, and the average player will do terrible in it, but in the hands of a skilled player, you want to be very, very nervous of a Bat Chat rolling around, because it will clip you, it will ruin your day, and it will laugh in the process. We move on to the AMX M454. I don't know why people are bummed out with this vehicle. It's still absolutely incredible. The armor did not change on the vehicle. There's a lot of people that think it got nerfed or something like that. It didn't. We can take a look at the armor profile on Armor Inspector here, and I mean, it's still insane. The upper plate's 330, the turret 360. Yes, it does have big hatches, but if you're hull down, you can't hit the hatches, so you're still completely fine. Look at the vehicle's upper plate, even against E100 heat. Look at the turret. This is calibrated shells against this vehicle. It's insane armor. Even on flat ground, E100 heat can't pen the vehicle. The armor is ridiculously good, and it actually got slightly buffed in the latest update due to the fact it got PBR. So yeah, the armor is fantastic on the vehicle. Now, the lower plate did get weaker. It's only about 180 now. It used to be about 230, so it is a bit weaker, but doesn't really matter in my opinion. The tank is still incredibly strong, and you will get a lot of bounces with the tank. Side armor, obviously pretty mediocre. Rear armor, very bad. The gun also got changed. It now has more DPM, and it's kind of weird. It has more DPM, less alpha, and I would say basically the same amount of pen. For example, if we go drag Blitz Stars in here, we can go over to Tier 10 Heavies, and the AMX M4 is right here, okay? So AMX M4 now sits at 2,700 DPM. That's actually really good. So if you're running Cali, you still got 2,500, which is more than the vehicle had running, like, basically Rammer previously. And the vehicle now has really good heat pen at 363. So I think the tank's still more than fantastic. It's got good alpha at 380, 450 on the standard, which allows you to still chunk your opponents. It hits hard. It's just a great take. Plus, it still has great mobility, reaching 45, reversing at 20. It's amazing. It's still an amazing vehicle. So I know there's people disappointed with the changes. I am not one of them. The vehicle still feels great. It's still super strong. And yeah, it's going to be sticking in that category. All right, we have the E100. This tank is also going into super strong. Oh boy, we're going to have 3 rows of super strong vehicles very soon, guys. But again, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, well, if every tank's super strong, doesn't that make them all average? No, because the way I'm ranking these vehicles is in the order of each one being played individually. If you put a very skilled player that understood how to drive every single one of these tanks, they would all be super strong vehicles, because you're not fighting other super strong players. You're fighting mediocre players the 99% of the games you play. And any good player can do well in these tanks. That is why I never have like a downright terrible category, because you can play any tank well. Any tank is workable. In fact, I don't even know if we're going to put tanks into workable today. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if the list, but honestly, I don't even know if we'll put something in the workable category. It might just be good, strong, super strong, and broken today. But yeah, that's why the majority of the vehicles we have here are in super strong. I've talked to a lot of my friends. They agree with me that 10.3 was actually a fairly good update in terms of balancing. So the E100 is definitely a super strong vehicle. The Alpha 680, incredible. The armor is still the same, which means you're going to have to load heat to pen it basically anywhere in the turret. And even if you have heat, you're going to have to be running calibrated shells to actually pen the turret, especially if it's a player that knows how to angle it. Pair that with the fact the vehicle's got decent accuracy for what it is. It's got 2,950 hit points and actually surprisingly good mobility. It turns at 35 degrees a second. That is stupid for how large the tank is. Yeah, it's a stupid tank. It's really good, and it's always been really good. So yeah, it's staying in the super strong category. Next up, you have the E50M. Yep, another super strong tank, guys. Again, it's an incredible vehicle. The tank has great DPM, fantastic mobility, and the armor, not only on the turret, just got buffed. Let's just showcase the armor that the vehicle is now sitting at. So if we make our way over to mediums, we make our way over to Germany, E50M, let's just pull out we'll do another medium. How about the Leopard 1, all right? So this is what the Leopard 1 sees against an E50M with AP ammo. That's insane. Load heat? Yes, it's a pen, right? Until you start using gun depression. Hull down, the E50M turret is now 340 millimeters thick, meaning that even tier 10 mediums can't pen it hull down. You just gotta run enhanced armor. It's insane. The upper plate is now also very solid. It's upwards of 370 millimeters thick. You will still be able to pen it in a face hug. It's still only about 255 when you're aiming down on it, but very, very solid armor on the E50M now, which is actually incredible. Side armor also got buffed on the vehicle, which means you can side scrape a bit better, but it's still pretty weak in terms of side armor, so you will have to be careful. Overall, the armor is insane, and when you pair that with good dispersion, high levels of DPM, and just a solid gun overall, plus also a really good top speed of 60 and a great great acceleration, super strong. Easy, super strong there. All right, next up we have the VK90, and yeah, once again, super strong, ladies and gents. This vehicle is incredible. It got a lower plate buff. Not by a lot. I mean, there's people out there that are like, oh my god, you can't pen the VK90 anymore. I don't get that. I mean, yeah, I just don't get why people think the VK90 is that hard to pen. This is what it looks like to a Leopard with AP ammo. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's strong, but you can pen through the lower plate any day of the week. Even angled, oh, it's real hard to pen. Oh, darn, I loaded heat. So, yeah, the vehicle, it's got a strong lower plate, but it's not ridiculously strong. Heat shells will cut through it all days of the week. The turret cheeks are still very pennable, 320 thick. You can't hide them. So it's very, very hard to actually angle the turret. You just got to hope your opponents don't know how to aim. It still has a hatch, a very hard one to pen, I'll admit, but it still does have a hatch. So it's not like the vehicle doesn't have weak points. But it's the gun paired with the fact that you can side scrape like this, hide your lower plate. That's when the VK90 is insane. It's got really good armor, and it's just always a solid take to get the job done. It's got everything you'd want going for a heavy. So yeah, it's definitely a super strong vehicle. Also, the upper plate got buffed in the latest update, so it's now 370, and that's against AP. If you load heat, it's 418, so you actually can't pen the upper plate. I find it kind of funny that the mouse now has worse armor than a VK90 on the upper plate, even though it's a freaking mouse. I don't know why Wargaming won't buff the mouse's its armor. It's weird, but as of right now, we'll save my things about the mouse until we get to it. We have the Conf Panzer 50 ton next, and you know what? You know what? I'm very tempted to do it. I'm very tempted to do it. I could put it in broken. It got tungsten in the latest update of the game. The vehicle has really good mobility, solid armor. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to put it in broken. It's an incredible take. With tungsten and adrenaline, the Conf Panzer 50 ton now sits at 5k plus DPM. Pair that with the fact the vehicle's got 8 degrees of gun depression, a good top speed. It's not the best power to weight, but it's still more than enough. And it's even got really good armor. People don't realize, once again, we're pulling back out Armor Inspector. People don't realize, but the Conf Panzer actually has incredible armor. Look at the vehicle against heat from a Leopard. This is what the upper plate looks like, just using slight degrees of gun depression. I mean, that's really good. 360 against AP, it's all red. Like, the whole upper plate is just going to be red. It's really, really good. And the turret as well. Look how trolled it is against standard ammo. You're going to have to load heat. Now, against heat, it's pretty easy to pen. You just shoot right next to the gun. You'll pen every single time. But it's a very, very solid armor profile for what it is. If you're moving and you're strafing back and forth, especially maybe 50, 100 meters away from your opponents, you're not going to be penned. Pair that with 3,600 base DPM, tungsten, adrenaline, and great top speed of 56, and very good mobility. It's just an incredible tank. I'm definitely putting it into the broken category. I was going to put it in the super strong, and I still think it has merits to be there, but I just feel like it's such a good tank. It's got to go there. Grill, we are going to put into workable. This is the first tank making it into the workable category. It's just not a vehicle that is able to carry. Like the 4005, you might say, well, why is the 4005 in broken then? Because the 4005 has the clip. It can deal 1600 damage in 5 seconds. The Grill can't do that. It deals 580. And don't get me wrong, it got buffs it needed. It now has really good heat pen, 397 if you're running Cali. That's incredible. People are overlooking that buff. The Grill pen buff is insane. And the fact that the vehicle has higher DPM is great. I like the Grill. I played it. I've made 2 videos on it since 10.3, trying out different playstyles, and I really enjoyed playing it. I got super high damage in both the games. The problem is, it just can't carry. It's not a tank that's going to be able to make a big enough impact in the game. Now, if you're in Platoon, easily it makes its way in the super strong. But if you're not in Platoon, it's staying in workable. And because of that, that's where it's chilling. So it's unfortunate. The Grill is a very solid tank. But yeah, it's definitely in the workable category in terms of winning. The Jagdpanzer E100, yeah, baby, going in the super strong. Once again, just an incredible vehicle. The Jagdpanzer E100 has massive alpha at 800, and in the latest update, it got tungsten, which is just even more hongler-bongler bonking capabilities. It deals 920 damage per shot with tungsten. You're basically a 183, but you have armor and hit points. This vehicle can have upwards of 2,300 HP. So yeah, the Jag is just ridiculous. It might not be the best at winning every game because it is a little bit slow. It's got some weak side armor, but holy, when you are playing this thing properly and you know how to use it, you know how to side scrape, it's basically like a heavy on crack. It's actually insane. So yeah, the Jag is going into the super strong category. The fact that it got tungsten in the latest update is just, it's insane. Leopard 1 also, another super strong take. Again, just the gun is amazing. 3,945 DPM. When you pair that with the fact that the vehicle has 0.272 dispersion, the best power to weight ratio for basically any tier 10, even compared to light tanks, you can fact check me on that. The vehicle has great gun depression at 8 degrees, and it's even got decent camouflage values. It's just incredible. Everything about the Leopard 1 is fantastic now. It does require a player with some brain cells to do well in, but there's no doubt in my mind that this is easily a super strong vehicle. Everything about it is so good. It's just amazing. So yeah, super strong any day of the week. It's chilling there. VK90, or not the VK90, sorry. The VK7201K, going back and super strong. It's just, so many tanks are super strong this update. I would put the VK into like strong, but I just can't. It's so good. First of all, the vehicle got a DPM buff, which now allows it to set at around 2600. That's great. Pair that with the fact that the vehicle got tungsten not too long ago. Well, maybe I'd say about a year ago. So it was a decent chunk of time ago. But The best part about the VK72 is now it features improved suspension. This is the mechanic that the Type 71 features, and it allows you to traverse at 35 degrees a second, just like the 100, and achieve your top speed much faster. The VK72 achieves a top speed of 32, which is actually decent for the tank. It's just incredible. It's got the DPM, it's got already really good armor, it's got a super solid turret, which actually got buffed in the latest update. The only real downside is that it lost a bit of alpha. It's now 600 instead of 640, but who gives a flying crap when everything else about the vehicle is so darn good? So yeah, easily super strong. All the changes in 10.3 have allowed the vehicle to just be amazing. It's so good. Okay, mouse. This one's tricky. This one's a very tricky vehicle. We are going to put it in the strong. It's close to being super strong. The problem with the mouse is that its armor still falls apart in a lot of situations. And because of that, there are still games you play in the mouse where you just feel helpless. You go up against autoloaders, you go up against big, chunky TDs. You know, a 4005 will ruin your day. A Badger will literally maul you alive. So because of that, I don't think the mouse really is going to go in super strong. But the vehicle does feature 2,700 DPM if you're running rammer. It also features really, really good hit points at 3,300 if you're running both sandbags. I personally suggest both sandbags and to run enhanced armor, so you'll have about 3,150 hit points, and you'll have a lot of armor, plus you'll have good DPM. That's the suggestion I have. It allows the tank to be pretty dang solid in a lot of situations. It's definitely a strong vehicle, but I don't know if I would say it's more capable than the tanks that we have in the super strong category right now. The Hori, yeah, we know where it's going, guys. The Hori is insane. First of all, it got a hit point buff. Now sits at 2,000 if you're running hit points, which is a little nutty. The vehicle also got an armor buff, basically making it impossible to pen the vehicle with standard AP. We can take a look at that, make our way over to Tank Destroyer Japan, Hori, then go AP ammo. This is what the Leopard looks like. I mean, yeah, the lower plate's always going to be a weak spot, but if you're hiding that lower plate and wiggling, I mean, look at the armor. It's all red now against AP ammo. You might say, okay, well, that's a Leopard. How about you pull out a heavy? All right, let's pull out an E100. It's still all red. The tank features really good armor now. Really annoying armor as well. Against heat shells, yeah, you'll pen it very, very easily. That's not a problem. But the vehicle itself against AP is now super good. And as I said, it's now got 2,000 hit points, which is just the icing on top. Pair that with the fact that the gun is busted on the Hori, dealing 560 damage per shot, and having not only insane accuracy, but the highest pen in tier 10, easily just makes it into the broken category. I don't think really anybody's going to argue that one sitting there. So yeah, it's chilling and broken. Type 71, oh yeah, super strong. The vehicle got so many good changes in 10.3. First of all, the vehicle now has much better pen. It has 350 mils AP premium, which is insanely good. The AP premium literally turns armor into paper mache. When you pair that with the fact that the tank still has incredible armor, it actually got an alpha buff and now sits at 420. It basically had no nerf on the armor, anything in terms of DPM. The vehicle's just insane. So yeah, it's super strong. The Type 71 would always have been super strong. Even if it didn't change from its previous state in 10.2, it still would have been super strong. But because of the changes and everything like that, it's just incredible. It got better and better. It's such a good vehicle. Also, it can have either more mobility, running improved suspension, or you can run improved V-stabs and have yourself 9 degrees of gun depression. So it's got 2 playstyles in one. It's an incredible tank when you do both playstyles. The DPM is solid. The pen is ridiculous. The armor is incredible. Yeah, super strong. Next, we have the STB, and yeah, it's going up there. It has to. If I put the conf panzer in broken, the STB's going in broken. Why? First of all, 11 degrees of gun depression. And that's insane. Second of all, AP premium. There's a lot of people that will say the STB is not fantastic because of the DPM. Happy's tier list, he said the STB he doesn't like personally because it doesn't feature that much DPM. And sure, I mean, I guess the standard DPM at 3,350 isn't anything insane, but it's still solid. It's more than enough to get the job done in any situation you're stuck in. But it gets even better. This vehicle features AP premium. It has 3,256 DPM with your premium. Load any other medium. 121B. Let's get the Leopard one, highest DPM medium. You put on Cali, or not Cali, you put on Heat. Look at this. 3,288 DPM loading heat. The STB, 3,256. it doesn't lose alpha. It's only 10 damage per shot difference to go from AP to premium in the STB. The Leopard 1 goes from 360 to 300. That is a literal 50 alpha difference between the Leopard and the STB changes there. Because of that, the STB is absolutely insane. When you have the AP Premium, which not only has ridiculously good pen of 315, with the fact that it's got DPM and everything else going for it, plus it's got 11 degrees of gun depression and a turret that you're basically never going to pen haul down, and yeah, it's no doubt in my mind, the STB is going into the broken category. It is such a good vehicle. It's just insane. All right, Sheridan Missile, we're obviously not going to be ranking this one, so we're just going to drag that to the back. We got the Sheridan now, and this vehicle is still making its way into the Super Strong. Previously, if I'm not mistaken, I would always rank the Sheridan in broken, but the major mechanics of the vehicle did get nerfed a bit. The aiming time is a little bit... No, actually, the aiming time got better. The shell velocity got worse. That's what changed. So shell velocity is a bit worse. Aiming time got better. Okay, that's kind of a buff and nerf at the same time. We'll say they equaled each other out. The accuracy is still really good. The on-movement dispersion is still very solid, and it has the highest pen for a light at 340 millimeters. So all of those parts are great. The vehicle is covered in spaced armor, which means you cannot penetrate it with HE, and it hits for 560, which is insane. So all the things about the Sheridan are absolutely amazing. The only real downside of 10.3 that the vehicle got was its view range got nerfed. It's still plenty of view range, though, and it's a light tank, which means you'll outspot your opponents. So I know there's a lot of people making big fuss about the changes to the vehicle. It's still insane in my opinions. Maps are not very large in Blitz, so you don't need that much view range to spot your opponents. It's still an amazing tank, and because all tank destroyers lost about 10 meters of view range in the latest update, it means that, yeah, this tank lost a bit as well, but you'll still outspot all the TDs, which is all you really need to do in a light tank to begin with. So yeah, the Sheridan is amazing. It's an incredible tank. It's staying in super strong because it is super strong. Concept 1B, it's going in there. It's going up. I have to put it. It's still a game-breaking tank. The turret armor is impervious. It does not matter what happens to the vehicle, as long as the turret armor stays the same, it's an incredible tank. Plus, the vehicle got more DPM in the latest update. It now sits at 3,000 DPM. It used to sit at around 2,900. Sure, it's only 100, but every single time you buff a tank, just slightly here and there. Look at the Leopard. The Leopard used to sit at like 3,500 DPM, and then Wargaming buffed it up to 3,600, then 3,700, and now we're at 3,900. That's the same thing with the Concept. It just keeps getting slight buffs here and there, and now we're at a point where it's over 3,000 DPM. Pair that with the fact the vehicle has 10 degrees of gun depression, a fantastic top speed of 45, and the best part about the Concept is its reserve track mechanic. When the vehicle's tracks get broken, it can still reverse at 7 kilometers per hour, which is insane. That was the biggest buff I've seen put on the vehicle since. The Concept has massive track wheels, and they are very easily hit. Because of that mechanic, it basically means you never have to worry about being caught out in the open. It's just incredible. So the Concept is easily in game breaking. It's an incredible tank. Yeah, I don't really think I need to say much else. The gun also features incredible dispersion. It's 0.285 dispersion. That's insane. So yeah, it's going into the game breaking category. Yo. The Yo is also game breaking. Why? Well, we're specifically talking about the double shot here. If we're talking about the triple shot, it is in super strong. But double shot Yo, 1.71 seconds, it is able to deal 900 damage. I do not care what anybody says. I don't care if the Yo had the worst armor in the game. The vehicle is stupid. Dealing the same damage as an FE2 and 5B 183 with faster aiming time, with 2,500 hit points, with 10 degrees of gun depression, and even decent turret armor and hull armor, allows the tank to be busted. And it got buffed in the latest update because the reverse speed when tracked is now 7 when it used to be 4. So, yeah, it's always going to be broken. I do not care how long the Yo is in the game for, it will not matter. As long as it keeps that 1.7 second interclip and it keeps the 450 alpha, it will always be a game-breaking vehicle. You just can't nerf a mechanic like that unless you actually change the interclip reload or the alpha itself. It's so stupid of a vehicle. It's one of my highest average damage vehicles at around 3,800. It's just stupid. So, yeah, it's staying in the broken category. Next up, we have the Patton. This one's going into super strong. The M48 Patton got a massive, massive buff in the latest update of the game. I'm trying to find where I put Armor Inspector, but I actually don't know. So I guess I'm going to have to pull up another armor inspector page really quick. Here we go. All right, let's go make our way over to Blitz. There we have it. And we are going to go pull out the M48 Patton. Where's America? There it is. Boom, boom, boom. This is what an M48 Patton looks like against a Leopard 1. The entire turret is 297 mils thick, and this is against AP ammo, right? So no AP ammo is going to cut through the Patton turret. Especially if you're hull down, you're not going to pen it. Let's load premium ammo. Ah. What? Yeah, remember these turret cheeks that used to be here? I can show you the turret cheeks. You pull out an M60. Those turret cheeks, yeah, those used to be what the Patton had. No longer, the M48 Patton has no turret cheeks, making it absolutely incredible. Hull down, this vehicle is basically impervious. I mean, sure, it's got a hatch, but it's still a very hard hatch to hit. And, yeah, it's just insane. So, yeah, the Patton is absolutely incredible. Also, the vehicle features 9 degrees of gun depression. Over the sides, it is 8 degrees. But frontally, it is still 9. A lot of people don't know this. Even though it did lose 1 degree, it is still 9 degrees. So, I know Fatness really likes the M60 over the Patton, but I'm sorry, Fatness. If you think that this armor profile is better than the M48 Pattons, it's not. And the guns are now basically the same. Pulling out Blitz stars, we can see the differences of these vehicle stats. We got the M48 Patton and the M60. The Patton actually has more DPM at 3,560 compared to the M60's 3,512. It does have slightly worse penetration, but it's nothing that you're going to have to worry about because the heat pen is exactly the same. When it comes to shell velocity, they're the same. Aiming time, basically the same. Dispersion, the same. On movement dispersion, the same. Gun depression is a 1 degree difference because, as we saw, frontally, the Patton does have 9 degrees. And mobility-wise, it's only a 4 kilometer per hour difference, with a slight 3% change in power to weight. Effective power to weight is pretty similar as well. So overall, both vehicles are very similar on stats, and because of that, the M60 is just a worse M48 Patton at this point. Don't get me wrong, the M60 is still strong, and in fact, we have the M60 at this point. We are going to put this vehicle in... Here's the problem. I still think the M60 is a super strong tank, but because I think the Patton is better, we are going to just put the M60 in strong, because I want to make people know that the M60 is a worse version of the M48 Patton at this point. So yeah, the M60 is going to go in the strong. Maybe in the future when Wargaming gives the vehicle PBR, it will be in super strong, but for now, it's staying in strong. The vehicle, as we just went over, it's really good. It's got a solid gun, high DPM, good gun depression, accuracy, everything like that, but when compared to the Patton, it's just worse. So yeah, that's why it's going into the strong category. Next up, we have the T110E3. This vehicle is an interesting one. It's got really, really good armor frontally, a solid gun with 680 alpha, and, well, that's about it, actually. It doesn't have good mobility. It's the worst power-to-weight ratio in Tier 10 at 8. It's terrible. It also has very poor traverse speed, which means if you get tracked, people can get behind you. Its rear is HE-able. It's only 50 mils thick. The DPM is actually pretty lackluster for a tank destroyer, and the accuracy is pretty mediocre. And I know all these things I'm saying sound bad, but it does have a lot of upsides. As I said, nearly impervious frontal armor, the gun hits hard, and it has ridiculous pen. Plus, the vehicle does feature pretty solid hull-down capabilities at 8 degrees of gun depression. So it's not bad by any means, but we're going to put it in strong. I do feel like there are some merits for being in super strong, but it's just, I don't know, it doesn't really have the holding capabilities that I would want because of that DPM nerf that Wargaming gave it. In 10.3, the only real changes is that it now has 2,000 hit points instead of like 1,900, so not that big of a change overall. It's a great tank, still very good. Obviously, the strong category means that this tank is still more than capable, just I don't think it's really on par with the vehicles in super strong. Next up, we have the T110E4, and this vehicle... right in the broken. Once again, the E4 is just insane. I mean, first of all, we can talk about its armor profile. The E4's armor it's ridiculous. The turret cheeks are now basically impervious. This is what 330 heat looks like. Let's go get out a heavy so that maybe we can get a little bit more fair. All right, here's a E100 heat. Against a E4 using at 6 degrees of gun depression, which is very easy to use. Yeah, I mean, that's insane armor. Apart from these slight little edges on the turret cheeks, you're not going to pen. This is upwards of 370. Against AP ammo, it's all completely red. The hatch, yes, it is a weak spot, but hauled down, it's pretty hard to hit. Almost actually impossible to hit. It's super, super hard to see. The vehicle does have a weak lower plate, but as long as you're hiding it, you should be fine. And it's the fact that the E4's gun is absolutely incredible. The gun just hits so hard hard. It's got 3,300 DPM. It's got also decent mobility, now reaching a top speed of 42 kilometers per hour. Trust me, anybody that has played in the E4 knows how good it is. It is absolutely insane. It's basically a heavy tank with more DPM, with more pen, with good hit points as well. It's got 2,120 HP. So it's got everything going for it that you'd want. It's insane. It's easily making its way into the broken category just because of its overall capabilities. All right, next up, T110E5. Oh yeah, baby, a triple going into super strong. This tank is just great. I mean, Wargaming finally has allowed it to be good. The only problem, which I've already taken advantage of a few times while fighting the E5, is the mantlet armor is still pretty dookie. You will cut through that mantlet any day of the week if you have high pen APCR and you know where to aim. So that's really unfortunate. It's still a massive problem. But all the other parts about the E5 are incredible. The hull down capabilities are fantastic, 8 degrees of gun depression. The turret armor got buffed in the latest update of the game, which is great. Its mobility is great. It's got a top speed of 42, a great power to weight ratio, and the DPM, accuracy, all that's insane. It's got just shy of 3,000 DPM. I think it's 2850. The best part, 0.3 dispersion. Yeah, you heard that right. 0.3 dispersion. It's the most accurate heavy. I think it's actually more accurate than the 215B, which is ridiculous. And it's got 374 heat pen. So yeah, the E5 is just insane now. Everything about the tank is great. Because of that, it easily makes its way into super strong. So yeah, the E5 is just amazing. T57 heavy. Yeah, I'm putting it. I'm sorry. There's going to be people that disagree with me. I don't care. This tank is still broken. I literally made a video just a day or two ago on the T57 Heavy, and I did 5,800 damage in the first battle, and like 5,000 something in the second game. The vehicle is stupid. It deals 1,200 damage in a matter of 3.5 seconds with shell interclip. There are people that will say, oh, the 57 Heavy got nerfed. Okay, so what? What got nerfed about the tank that hurt it so much? If we make our way over to the Blitzstars statistics, we got to find the 57 Heavy here. The vehicle still sits at 2,700 DPM. That's a lot. That's still more than the majority of tier 10 heavies. And you're forgetting that with shell reload boost, you can get that up to 3,000 DPM. So it still has more than enough adequate DPM. The reload on the T57 Heavy went from around 19 seconds to 21.5. So it gained about 2.5 seconds of reload. That's it. That's nothing in the grand scheme of things. You stay in cover for a teeny bit longer, and then you poke and you go right into your opponents. Any vehicle with shell reload boost and the ability to deal 1,200 damage in 3.5 seconds is broken. Nobody can change anybody's mind on that. This here is the 57 Heavy's armor profile. Yes, the hull did get nerfed, but the turret got buffed. The entire mantlet is now a bounce. So if you hit anywhere here, you're bouncing. Oh, you hit this little weird spot here? Darn, you bounced. Oh, I hit this spot here, you bounced. Oh, hit here. I don't know, hit this little spot here. If you're shooting out this vehicle at a distance of, I don't know, 200 meters away, and this is what your aiming circle looks like when you're shooting, yeah, it's really, really troll. And if you're in mediums that don't have a lot of pen, let's say a light tank, look at the turret armor. It's all red at certain angles. It's so stupid. The 57 Heavy has incredibly troll armor. And because of that, it's always a cringe tank to fight. When you pair that with the fact it's got DPM and everything else going for it, yeah, it's easily making its way into the broken category. T95E6, it's not broken, I will say that. While the tank is easily one of the best tier 10s in the game right now, it's not a broken tank because there's nothing necessarily broken about it. It doesn't, ruin your day. It's just a high DPM, super mobile heavy. So it will be going into super strong, and that's a pretty simple decision for me to make there. It's got 3,300 DPM, and it's got 363 mils of heat. It's also got incredible accuracy because it got combat stabilization in the latest update of the game. So it's accurate, it's got really good DPM, stupid heat pen, and it has the best power to weight ratio for any tier 10 heavy, reaching a top speed of 50 kilometers per hour. Features 10 degrees of gun depression and even some decent turret armor. Overall, the E6 is insanely good, and it is, it's one of the best tier 10s. As I said, it's not in the broken category for simple reasons, but it is still, like, if I were to put this in terms of my win rate and how I can perform in it, it would be, like, up here. So, it's really, really good. IS4 is going to go into good. It's basically on the same level as the 5A, in my opinion. It's not a bad tank. a lot of people are super bummed about the armor profile. And yes, it did get nerfed. If we make our way over to Armor Inspector and we go pull out the IS-4, we got to go over to the USSR, IS-4, right? The vehicle did get nerfed. But look, against AP ammo, even with Cali, the WZ-132 can't pen it. You pull out the majority of mediums, and they are gonna have some red spots on the IS-4's upper plate. The problem with the IS-4 is that, yes, it does have some big weak spots all around it, but the turret armor is still the same, and if you're using it hull down, even against heat shells, it's still upwards of 350 thick. So I think that the vehicle's still more than capable. It actually got more DPM, it got a lot more mobility, and because of that, it's still a very solid vehicle. It gets the job done, it's got great side scraping capabilities. I know that a lot of people are bummed about the tank, and I am too. But it's still a okay tank to get the job done. It's still good. So I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I don't think it's as bad as people are making it out to be. But yes, I do agree that Wargaming should not have changed the vehicle. Next up, we have the IS-7, and this one's tricky because I don't know if it fits in the game. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll put it in the game-breaking category. Why? Well, I think the armor alone is justified enough to be in game-breaking. The fact that the IS-7 sides are literally just black holes that will randomly eat your shells. You can aim a perfect shot right on the side, and it'll just miss and go right into the track wheel. I don't know why. The tank's literally got like a vortex around it that just sucks the shells into the tracks. And because of that, it's really stupid. There was a game I was playing in the Hori where I was recording, and I shot 2 shots into the side of an IS-7 about 20 feet away from him, and both just went and bounced. I was so mad, I had to cancel the recording and then do another battle after that. And it wasn't like a skill issue. They were perfectly aimed, just that's the way the IS-7 works. So the armor alone puts it into the broken category. When you pair that with the fact that now the vehicle finally has 330 plus mils of APCR pen, because it got pen, which is the only thing it's always needed, it also got tungsten in the latest update and an HP buff. It's ridiculous. The vehicle is absolutely ridiculous. It's game breaking. It's just so game breaking. It's yeah, it's stupid. So I don't think I really need to argue my point on the IS-7 anymore. The Object 140, we're gonna put it into strong. I don't think that it fits the super strong category. Like, yes, it's got an incredible gun. It's got the most on, or the best on movement dispersion in tier 10. It got a dispersion buff in the latest update. It got a DPM buff, but it lost its armor. It essentially has 0 armor. And unlike the Leopard, where the Leopard actually has 8 degrees of gun depression, the 140 does not have 8 degrees of gun depression. It has 6. And it's very hard to work because of that. It's very not flexible on ridge lines. It's a great tank. It has fantastic damage output. But I'd be willing to say I can do just as well in any of these other tanks in the strong category as the 140. So it's a great tank, don't get me wrong. There will be people that really like it. I am not one of the people that thinks it's that good, but it's still a strong vehicle nonetheless, especially with that massive DPM buff it got in the latest update. Object 263. This is a tricky one. This is a tricky one. I'm doing it, putting it into game breaking. The 263 in the latest update of the game is busted. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, it doesn't have gun depression. Who cares? You can't pen the thing. This is the 263's armor profile, all right? Now, look at the engine deck. That used to be a weak spot. No longer. This is heat shells from an AMX-30B. This is 330 mils of heat pen. The only real weak spot is the lower plate and this little bar here. I had a video about a week ago on the 260 where I went up against 2 60-plus percenters that are both very good players. I crapped on both of them. I rushed them. They both bounced, and I killed both. The vehicle not only got a DPM buff in the latest update, now sitting at 3,950, but it also got a pen buff, now sitting at 330 heat, meaning that it actually has plenty of pen to cut through basically anything in front of you. So it's got really good heat pen. Actually, wait, it might not be 330 heat. I take that back. I think it's 360 millimeters of heat pen it got. It is 360, yes. Okay, so yeah, it actually got 360 heat pen. I corrected myself there. It's got ridiculous amounts of pen now, enough to cut through any armor. It's got insane DPM. Its superstructure got buffed even more. Pull out any heavy. It doesn't matter what you pull out. IS-4, it's got 363 mils of heat pen. This is what a 263 looks like hull down. Holy crap, the vehicle is busted. DPM, mobility, top speed of 50 kilometers per hour, turns at 50 degrees a second. It's got pen. It's insane. There are people that probably won't agree with me putting it that high, but if you understand how to drive the 263, it is busted beyond belief. So that's why it's going that high up. Next up, we got the Object 268. easy super strong for me. The vehicle's armor is very troll. It's got the best camouflage values in tier 10, and in the latest update, it not only got more DPM, more alpha, now sitting at 690 from what was 670, but it also got better accuracy. It literally got the trifecta of buffs you want for a TD. It already had all the other things you'd want going for it, like mobility. So, yeah, it's just super strong. It is the jack of all trades when it comes to TDs. It always gets the job done. Anybody that drives the 268 is going to have a fun time. So, yeah, it's very easily fitting right into this super strong category. The Object 907, it's not broken, but it is definitely super strong. It has tracer shell mechanics. These allow you to keep your opponent spotted for 20 seconds at a time. That's insane. The fact that the vehicle got tracer shells is absolutely ridiculous. Pair that with the fact the vehicle has 0.272 dispersion, the same as a Leopard 1. It also got a DPM buff in the latest update. It's incredible. The only real downside of the tank is that it lost a bit of armor on the turret, now sitting at like a penetrable amount. In fact, I'll show it. It's kind of hard to describe what the turret is because it's a rounded design, but if we make our way over to the 907, we can see that against like even AP ammo, it does have weak spots now. The turret cheeks are only 230, and against high heat pen, you can cut right through the edges, only about 260 to 300, so it did lose a bit of armor, especially on the upper plate as well. It's a bit unfortunate that it lost armor, but the gun is so much better now. The DPM is finally really good on the tank, upwards of 3,500. I really can't diss the vehicle. It's just amazing. So yeah, it gets in the super strong like 10 times out of 10. Object 260, it's going to go into strong. It's not super strong. The armor, don't get me wrong, it's good. Let's go pull back Armor Inspector. Like, the armor is the major buff that happened to the vehicle in the latest update, right? Make our way over to the USSR, make our way over to the Object 260. It's strong. Like, don't get me wrong, the armor's good. Against AP ammo, it's upwards of 280. The problem is it only has 6 degrees of gun depression, which means it's very hard to hide that massive lower plate. But as well, if you angle it at all to the side, because it's a pike nose, it's a pen. So loading heat, I mean, you just butter right through the vehicle, like any time. The biggest problem is the turret armor. Look underneath the gun here. Do you see that? When you're using gun depression, the entire underbelly of the turret is a pen. This is not a hard pen either. The entire underbelly. That is a massive weakness. Load heat, it's even weaker. Plus, you can pen this part here too. So the 260 armor, sure, the hull got better, but the turret did not change, and the turret has always been the strength that you want on a vehicle. Having a solid turret like the IS-4 allows you to be incredible in hull down positions. I would still rather drive an IS-4 hull down than an Object 260 hull down. But the 260 has more DPM at 3K, it does have very, very solid mobility, so it's still a great tank, don't get me wrong, very, very solid vehicle, but it's just not really as good as I'd like it to be. If the vehicle maybe got an extra degree of gun depression, or the turret armor got a mega buff, I'd be happy with it. But right now, it's staying in strong. Alright, 777, yeah, this one's gonna be, it's gonna be super strong. There's nothing necessarily game-breaking about the vehicle, like it has really, really good armor, it's got good mobility, it's got a ridiculous amount of DPM, it's got high penetration, it's got a lot of great things going for it. But at the same time, it does fairly easy to get flanked around. It's kind of like old 113 levels of traverse. It has a pretty weak roof, so it does have its fair share of downsides that you will have to keep an eye on while driving the tank. But it is definitely a super strong tank. There's really no arguing about that. The DPM is fantastic. The mobility gets the job done. The only real changes in 10.3 to this vehicle were the fact that the tank got a slight accuracy buff, going from 0.344 to 0.335 or something like that, and then it got APCR instead of AP as its standard. So basically nothing happened to the vehicle. But yeah, definitely super strong. The T100 LT, yeah, it's going in the super strong. I mean, the vehicle's still incredible. It's got super duper troll armor. The DPM is fantastic. It's 3,100. It's not as good as it used to be, but it's still more than enough. It's got AP premium, which allows you to butter through your opponents. It's got ridiculous mobility, troll armor, and the vehicle features tracer shell mechanics, just like the 907, meaning that you can keep your opponent spotted for 20 seconds at a time. Being a light tank paired with this ability means that you can literally bully people. You can spot somebody across the map and keep shooting them over and over and over, and you won't even have to worry about being detected. So the T100 LT is still, and probably will always be, a super strong light, as long as it always keeps the tracer shells and the high DPM. The Object 268 version 4, a little bit of a tricky one to write in here. We're going to put it into strong. It's a great tank. The capabilities of it are solid. It's got high alpha, 650. It used to be 690. The DPM is the same, so basically no nerfs there. The armor is incredible, but side armor-wise, it's really poor. If anybody knows how to take you apart, they will. In fact, I'd probably like to drive an E3 more than a V4, so that's why I'm putting them in the same category. The V4 is strong and all, but the more skilled you are, the less effective you'll actually do in the vehicle. I know that sounds weird, but that's definitely the case of the tank. So it's going to stay in strong. T22 medium, yeah, it's going to go in the super strong. There's really not much of reasons why it wouldn't. The armor got buffed in the latest update on the hull, upper plate, and the sides, allowing it to get just that little bit more troll armor. It's not ridiculous, but you will get more bounces. The DPM got slightly worse, went from like 35 to 3400. It's still plenty of DPM, though, to get the job done. So that's fine. The pen is still good. Everything about the tank is still fairly good. The mobility is still really good. So in terms of the T22, it's still a great tank. It's still a super strong vehicle. It has by far the best armor for a medium, especially on the turret. You will never pen the turret armor. So yeah, because of that, it's still gonna chill in super strong. We're down to our last vehicle. Actually, no, we're not. We're missing one other tank. I need to go drag that in a moment after this, which is the CS63. But let's do the 62A real quick. 62A, it's not game-breaking, but it's definitely super strong as well. The armor profile on the 62A is incredible. Let's go over to the Soviets and go pull that out real quick. There we go. This is the 62A against IS-4 Heat, but against AP, it's actually pretty solid, as we can see. Like, it's not as strong as people are making it out to be. It's 260, 250 on the upper plate. Like, you'll still pen it with a lot of AP ammo, but if this vehicle's wiggling like this, like, that armor becomes really, really troll. So that's the nice thing about it, especially if you're in a medium. We go pull out, like, I don't know, 121 and you're running AP without Cali, it's definitely got some troll spots on the armor. So it's not bad at all. It's 237 on the mid plate, 252 on the upper plate. Using gun depression, look at the armor of this thing. I mean, that's insane. It's 370 on the upper plate, 298 on the turret. So yeah, the 62A's armor is absolutely incredible. It's not as strong as people think, though. Especially the side armor did not change. So if you over-angle the sides even slightly, you're going to get cut right through. So that's kind of something you should keep in mind. Great tank, though. It also got a DPM, or not a DPM buff, actually a DPM nerf, but I got an alpha buff now sitting at 340, which is actually really, really nice. So yeah, the 62A is just an incredible tank overall. Gun's great. Everything about it is great. So, and the final vehicle we're going to finish off today's video with is the CS63, which we will be putting into the... I think I'm going to put it into the workable category because it really is just the worst of all tier 10 mediums. It does nothing good. It does things okay. I mean, it has okay DPM, okay mobility. It does have great reverse speed. I'll give it that. But everything else, pointless. It has tungsten. Okay, so does the 121. So does the Kampfpanzer, which defeats the purpose of this. It just, to me, there is no reason why you would want to drive this vehicle. It's pointless. So that's my view on the CS63. This right here is my entire tier 10 tier list, ranking all the vehicles in the game. As I said, this is not really an opinionated tier list. This is more based off of the tank's capabilities, their changes in update 10.3, and what they have going for them. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my video. Obviously, this will be the most in-depth tier list by far. Yeah, I will see you all in the next one. Please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. Bye-bye.